Are we on? Okay. So a couple of people emailed me and messaged me and sent me Facebook posts and asked me if I'd do a little tutorial. So I'm going to do a little tutorial for you showing you how to make these face masks. And it really is, those of you who've asked, super easy. So I have this piece of fabric, and I know there's not enough of it, so I also have another little piece of fabric here, and I'm going to show you what that's for. So the first thing that you need to do is take your piece of fabric, and you're going to measure it to see if you can get a measurement of 8 and 14. So that one is exactly 14 inches long. So now I'm going to cut it. So since it's 14 this direction, I'm going to cut it then 8 inches there. So right here is where my 8-inch mark is. Okay. So I'm going to measure out through here, and probably an easier way, if I can find it in this mess of a table, is when you measure your 8 inches, put a little mark there with a pencil, and then just go across here measuring 8 inches, because it's the piece that you need is 8 by 14, and some of you had asked where I got my pattern. I got my pattern from the internet, of course, but there was a hospital in Stillwater, Oklahoma that had asked for these masks, and this was the pattern that the lady on their website they were giving out. So it's called buttoncounter.com. We'll put the link up for you. It tells you step-by-step instructions, everything that you need to make this. This one does call for elastic pieces that go around the ears. I have some elastic, but I don't have enough. So what I ended up doing was I made straps that you can tie. And I actually, when I tried that on, I liked the ones with the straps better than I did the elastic. But this will show you step-by-step what to do. Buttoncounter.com. Okay, so I've got my marks across through here now where my 8 inches is. So I'm going to cut this piece of fabric on those marks across through here so that I have a rectangle that is 8 by 14. And if you're like me, I can't cut a straight line. It's no big deal. It'll be okay. Okay, so I have my 8 by 14 piece of fabric. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half with the printed side touching. So I'm going to fold this in half with the printed side touching, and I'm going to press this. Okay. So I just like to iron this down because it just helps me. Now, if you have a sewing machine or if you have a serger, either one will work here. I have a serger, so what I'm going to do is on this edge, where this side's folded, this is my fold line, and here's my 2 edges, I'm going to serge that right down through there, or if you have a sewing machine, just sew that down. Alright, so I'm going to serge this edge. Alright, cut the string off. And then I'm going to go back to my ironing board, and I'm going to actually pull this edge right here down to the middle. This is just something I do because it helps me in a few minutes. And I'm going to iron that piece that I sewed. I'm going to iron that edge down. Now, if you sewed it with a sewing machine, you could actually fold it in half where you have the 2 edges and go down that way, and that's actually even easier. But since I serged it, this is what I did. Then you turn it back to where you see the printed side of the fabric, and you find that seam right there. Okay? The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to pull that seam together. Pull it where you've got it on the edge of the fabric, and you're going to iron this down. Okay? Alright, now you can see that I've got some right here that isn't, like here's the printed side, here's the non-printed side. You can trim that off if you want, or you can leave it. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to trim that little edge off, and then when I turn it over, I see I've got it this way too, and that's just where I didn't have it lined up perfectly, or I didn't, like I said, can't cut a straight line. So I'm just going to trim this off too. Okay, it's really going to be okay. Then I'm going to come back over here and on the edge where I have my seam. So right here's my seam. I'm going to lay that down facing me. Okay, so that's going to be the bottom. This is going to be the top. Now, I'm going to measure up about 1.5 inches. So right about here, I'm just going to put a little mark with my pencil. They say not to use, well, the professionals say not to use pencil, but yeah. All right, little marks there. Okay, so now I have 2 little marks that measure 1.5 inches. Now, this took me a while when I was reading the instructions in the pamphlet, and I figured out a way to do it just a little bit easier. Put your thumb on those little marks right there and pinch your fabric up. Okay, see what I did? I just pinched my fabric up and fold it over. Then I just reach across and I pin it. Now, that little mark that you have there is probably going to be hidden, and even if it's not, it's going to be okay. It'll wash out. Okay, so pin it. Then the other side, do the same thing. Pin it.
That's the dog drinking, not me.
All right, now it says in your instructions, I think it says to measure another 1/2 inch up. If you want to measure a 1/2 inch up, you can. You just do the same step. You just measure a 1/2 inch up from it, and you would make your little mark. I'm going to be honest with you, I just kind of guesstimate. So I put my thumb here, and I go up, when I say here, I mean right here at the edges, and I just make another pinch and fold over. Okay, and then I pin it. Hello, Kobe. You want to help? All right, I pin both sides. And these are making your pleats. Now, the next thing I do is same things. I put my fingernail right there next to those little folds, and I grab it, and I pinch, and I fold up. All right, and when I pin it, I go through all of the fabric. Okay, and if you have to let go the other side, that's okay, because you just do the same thing again. Grab it, fold up. There we go. And that makes the mask part of your mask. And what I do, because I just like to have my pleats down, I like for the fabric not to be bunched up, I come back to the ironing board and I iron those pleats down. Now, again, if you have a serger, you can serge the sides. If you have a sewing machine, you're going to sew the sides. So we're going to go back to the serger. And I'm going to serge the edge of my mask. Now, the key is to hold those pleats down. So, you might go a little bit slower here. One thing is because with the serger, you can't go over pins. Sewing machine is a little bit easier. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I hold those pleats down. And sew the edge, or serge the edge. And scissors. Alright, and do the same thing to the other side. Take my pin out. Hopefully the presser fit on your machine, or if you have a serger, will help you hold those pleats down as well. You just don't want those pleats to move. You don't want them to let loose, because then you're going to have to stop what you're doing, cut the thread, take it out, blah, blah, blah. Alright. So now, I have my mask. Now it's time to do the edges. Now, I did not have enough fabric like this left to do the straps, because the straps need to be pretty long, as you can see right here, because this strap is going to go around their head, around their neck, and around the mask as well. So, what I ended up doing was I just took another piece of fabric. And you say, well, that one's not long enough either. So this one is about, I think about 4 inches. Yeah, this is about 4 inches wide. So what you do is just fold this in half. Okay? Fold it in half and pin it down the edges. because you're going to split this piece in two. Okay.
Pausing. One.
Okay, so I have this all pinned now. You can see it's folded right there. So I'm just going to split this piece in half. So just put your scissors in there. Hold it. Pins will help to hold it too, but you just go right down the edge. Like I said, these aren't perfect. I'm not a professional seamstress. Don't be asking me to alter any shirts or dresses or anything. You would definitely regret that. But things like this I can do. Okay, so now when I unpin this, you can see I have two pieces. And to save time, I already have them cut. They're right here. So now I'm ready to work with the straps that are going to go on the mask. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my two pieces apart so that you can see I have four there. And I'm going to sew these edges together. Now, if you see this from the edge of the material where the bolt was, you're going to want to trim that off. So just take your scissors and just snip that off, okay? And I have that on both sides of these. All right, so there we go. So now we're going to go to, I'm going to go to the serger again. Like I said, if you've got a sewing machine, just use the sewing machine. And I'm going to
put the printed sides together.
Put the printed sides together. Thank you, Mark.
I've made that mistake.
Put the printed sides together, yes, and you're going to sew this or serge this together. Okay, so then this one, put the printed sides together. Okay, and you're going to sew that together. All right, cut off the extra thread. And you know I'm coming back to the ironing board. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. Maybe I said it earlier. I don't know. Maybe I said it in video 5 that we did 20 minutes ago that we kept messing up. This is where you can burn your little fingers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this piece of fabric out. If some of these are super long and some of them are not quite as long as you have enough of this piece of fabric that it will go around someone's head. And by that, the mask ties here. So when you tie it, it ties up here. So just as long as this piece is long enough and the two pieces that you're using for your mask are the same length, it doesn't matter if this piece is 45 inches and the next one's 40 inches, it's okay. Just as long as it's long enough to be tied. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the edge and I'm going to fold this edge down and I'm going to iron it. Okay, and while I'm doing that, I'm just going to pull this around here because this is the other edge of it, and I'm going to iron it down as well. And I just guess, okay, they're about the same equal length folded down. Now, this is going to be the strap that goes around my mask and that you tie. So, I'm just going to use about the width of my finger, and I'm going to go down this piece, and I'm going to iron this down. It just makes it so much easier if you go ahead and iron this down first. Okay, and if it's not perfect, it is no big deal. It will work out.
And stop.
Okay, so I have both sides of this ironed down now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in the middle where those two edges meet. So you see what I'm talking about? Those two edges are meeting, and I'm going to iron this down. And just take your time all the way down through here because this is what's going to make the strap. Ready when you are. Okay, so I now have these two straps. Thanks, Mark, for putting that around my neck. You're awesome. Ready to go for my mask. So now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine. And you're almost done. So remember where you sewed these two together? That is now the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mask that I had sewed. I'm going to fold it in half just to kind of find my middle. My middle's right there. Okay. So, look, I'm not one of those people who make videos and everything's nice and neat where everything's at. So then I'm going to find my seam there, okay? Because I know that's the middle, and I'm going to meet it up with this pin. So I'm just going to lay my mask in there to the middle, because what you want this to do is wrap around it, and you want it to try to touch your fold. So I'm going to lay that in there, okay? See how it's in there now? And then I'm just going to pin this down. I usually put about 3 pins. And when I'm feeling this, I can feel the edge of my mask right there. So I know it's to the edge. All right, so there's one side. You're going to do the same thing to the other side. Fold it in half, or if you look, you can kind of see where that seam is. It's right below that crease. So you find that again on your strap right there, and you just, there's my seam. So I'm going to make it just a little below. And I'm going to fold it over. And I'm going to pin it. All right, 1, 2, and then put this in there. There you go. 3. And you're almost done. Okay? So I've got it pinned. Now, the key to this one is your edges. This is why I like to iron it down, is because it'll stay flat. It'll stay pretty flat. What did I say? I don't know. All right, so where I have folded it, I'm going to use my presser fit as my guide, and you can set your needle. If you see the needle here, I can move it wherever I want to. You probably can on your machine as well, but I'm just going to start. I'm going to move this back to about the end of my presser fit. See how my fabric is on the edge and my needle is over there a little bit? So let me use a pin here. So my fabric right here is on the edge of my presser fit. The end of the fabric is right about here, okay? And my needle is going to be sewing right in there. That way I know I'm catching this fabric that I folded over. Okay, I have no worries about that. And then I'm just going to start sewing. Okay, and then I'm going to back up to the end. So go backwards and then go back forward. If your fabric gets stuck and it wants to stay in one spot, just lift your presser foot a little bit and pull your fabric back just a tiny bit. So then you just start sewing. And if it helps you to, when it comes out here far enough, to hold this and hold the front, just don't pull this back here. Don't pull this fabric, because if you do, it'll make your stitches longer and they won't hold as good. Let the presser fit and everything underneath here pull your fabric through, because it will. Alright, so you're just going to sew and try your best to keep the edge of your fabric right where you started. Don't be moving it around. You want a nice straight seam. It's going to happen that it moves or whatever, and it's okay if it does, because you can back over it and fix it. Now as you get closer to your mask, okay, you're getting your mask up here where it's pinned. As it gets closer to this pin, you can sew over the pins. It's okay. So just as long as, if it's a pin with the plastic ball here on the end, it'll get stuck there. So you want that out of the way of your presser foot. You just sew over. Okay, keep going. Keep that edge of your fabric right there with where you started it with your presser foot. See, it's still right there at the edge. That's where you want to keep that, so that you have a nice straight seam. And then you'll keep going. Now when you get to your seam here, mine is serged, so that's pretty thick, and it's a lot for the needle to have to go through. So I probably will have to stop, because it'll want to get stuck. See there, it's staying in one spot. So all I do is raise my presser foot a little and then just slide it back a tiny bit. And I help it out by pulling back here, just a little. Alright, so there it goes over. I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to take that pin out and hold it. Okay, keep sewing. Your presser fit, the fabric is still staying there where it's at. When I sew, if I'm sewing something straight like this, my eye's not on the needle. My eye is on where that fabric needs to stay. So I'll keep my eye right there. And see where this edge is lapping over a little bit? That's okay. As long as it's not huge and you're sewing through both pieces of fabric, it's okay. All right, you just keep sewing. So you get to the end of the strap. Okay, I'm getting more closer to the end here now. All right, you can sew down through here and across if you want to hold that down, or you can just end it here at the end. For these, I've done both. Whichever one you want to do is fine. But when you get to the end, you need to back it up a little bit and then sew back over it and off. Then you lift your presser foot, cut your thread, and you have the first side. Take your pins out. You have the first side of your mask done. You're going to do the exact same thing to this side. Okay? Alright, I'm on the very end of the second strap. And I'm going to get close to the end here. Back it up just so I can make sure that my stitches stay in. Cut off the excess thread. And you've made your first mask. There you go. It really is just that easy. Now the first one, when I read the instructions, I was like, I don't know about this. As you make more of these, you'll get faster at it and they'll be a lot easier to make. But you've done it. There it is. There are all kinds of videos online that you can watch that do them different ways. They're all pretty much the same concept unless you do, there's one that goes up over and around. This is what I use. You can use what you want. But for those of you who want to know, this is it. And that's how easy it is. I put a challenge up to my kids that I teach at school and kids that are at home during this time period. If you want to write me a message on a piece of paper and then have your parents, like I made one here that said, "You are my hero. May God watch over you and keep you safe." And then you can sign your name, or you can draw a picture. You can do it in crayon. You can do it in marker. You can do it in pen. You can do it in pencil. And have your parents take a picture of that. Or if you want to send a picture of yourself with it, and you can hold it up as long as I can see you and that message real well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crop these down into like a little note card, and we'll pin them on the face masks so that we can kind of let the kids in on this too as well. So, yep. So that's it. If you have any questions, just give me a shout out. Okay. Thanks. Bye.